The twins were abandoned in a rusted shopping cart outside a gas station, their cries swallowed by the hum of a Nebraska night. At 16, Ellie and Ethan had only a crumpled note from their grandmother. "I can't do this anymore." Now, standing in the flickering glow of a street lamp, they clutched each other's hands, their world collapsing under the weight of betrayal. Ellie's hazel eyes scanned the empty lot, her braid fraying from nervous tugging. "She's gone. Ethan. She really left us." Her voice cracked, barely audible over the distant rumble of trucks. Ethan, taller but just as fragile, squeezed her hand tighter. His jaw clenched. They'd been raised by Grandma Ruth since they were toddlers. Told their parents were dead car crash. No details. But the note, scrawled in her shaky hand, hinted at a lie. "Your father's alive. Don't look for him." The twins had nowhere to go. Their small town of Willow Creek didn't offer much beyond a diner, a church, and gossip that clung like damp rot. Ruth had been their anchor, stern but steady, until her drinking spiraled and her patience snapped. The note was her final act, dumping them like unwanted furniture. But the words about their father burned in Ellie's mind. Why hide him? Why now? They slept that night in the gas station's bathroom, curled up on the cold tile, using their backpacks as pillows. Ethan whispered, "We'll find him. Elle. Whoever he is." Ellie nodded, but doubt gnawed at her. What kind of father lets his kids believe he's dead? Morning broke with a gray drizzle. The twins hitched a ride to Lincoln, the nearest city, with a trucker who pitted their hollow eyes. In a library, they scoured public records, piecing together fragments from Ruth's old stories. Their mother, Lila, had died when they were lie there. But their father, a name surfaced in an old marriage certificate, James Carter. Last known address in Chicago. Ellie's heart raced. He's real. Ethan. He's out there. The librarian, a kind woman with glasses perched on her nose, overheard their search. "Chicago's a big place," she said softly. "You sure you're ready for what you might find?" Ellie didn't answer. She wasn't sure. But the ache of abandonment pushed her forward. They had $47, 2 backpacks, and a name. It was enough to start. The bus to Chicago smelled of stale coffee and desperation. Ethan stared out the window, his reflection pale against the rain-streaked glass. "What if he doesn't want us?" he asked, voice low. Ellie didn't reply. She couldn't. The question hung like a blade between them. Chicago's skyline loomed by evening, a maze of steel and lights that felt like another world. They found a shelter, a cramped room with cots and the hum of other people's sorrows. Ellie kept the note in her pocket, rereading it until the paper thinned. Don't look for him. Why had Ruth been so afraid? Was their father a monster? Or was she hiding something worse? Days blurred into weeks. They searched online, called every James Carter in the city, and hit dead ends. Ethan's hope faded, but Ellie's stubbornness burned brighter. One night, at a community center giving out free meals, a volunteer overheard them talking. "James Carter," he said, frowning. "There's a guy, runs a youth program in Uptown. Mid-30s. Good dude. Could be him." The twins followed the lead to a small brick building, its sign reading Hope Haven, a place for all. Inside, the air smelled of paint and coffee. A man stood at the front, laughing with a group of teens. He had warm brown skin, a faded scar on his cheek, and eyes that crinkled with kindness. Ellie froze. Something about him felt familiar. like a song she'd forgotten the words to. "Excuse me," Ethan said, stepping forward. "Are you James Carter?" The man turned, his smile faltering as he saw the twins. His gaze lingered on Ellie's hazel eyes, then Ethan's freckled nose. "Yeah," he said slowly. "I'm James. Who are you?" Ellie's throat tightened. She pulled out the note, her hands trembling. "We're your kids." James's face crumpled, a mix of shock and something deeper recognition. He stepped closer, his voice barely a whisper. "Ellie." "Ethan." The room spun. How did he know their names? And why? After all these years, was he standing here, alive, when they'd been told he was gone? James's hands shook as he took the note from Ellie, his eyes scanning Ruth's jagged handwriting. The community center's hum faded, leaving only the weight of his silence. "You're supposed to be with her," he said, voice cracking. "She told me you were safe." Ellie's heart pounded. Safe? She left us at a gas station with this. She jabbed a finger at the note. Ethan stood rigid, his eyes locked on James, searching for a lie. The man before them wasn't the ghost they'd imagined. He was real, solid, and somehow knew them. James gestured to a small office in the back, its walls lined with photos of smiling kids. "Sit," he said softly. "Please." The twins hesitated but followed, sinking into worn chairs. James leaned against a desk, his face a map of grief and confusion. "I didn't know," he started. "Ruth, your grandmother, she cut me out. Said I wasn't fit to raise you." "Why?" Ethan's voice was sharp, almost accusing. "What did you do?" James exhaled, rubbing the scar on his cheek. "I loved your mom, Lila. We were young, reckless. Got married at 19. Had you two by 21. But I was figuring myself out. I came out as gay a year after you were born. Lila was supportive. But Ruth..." He shook his head. "She called me an abomination. Said I'd ruin you." Ellie's stomach twisted. She'd heard Ruth's rants about sinners during her drunken spirals, but never connected it to their father. "So she lied," she whispered. "Told us you were dead." James nodded, his eyes glistening. "After Lila died, Ruth took you both. I fought for custody, but I was a broke college kid, and she had a house, a job. The court sided with her. Then she moved you to Nebraska, changed her number, and vanished. I've been looking for you ever since." Ethan's fists clenched. "You didn't try hard enough." The words cut, and James flinched. Ellie reached for her brother's arm, but he pulled away. "Ethan, stop," she said. "He's here now?" "Am I?" James asked, his voice raw. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be your dad after 16 years. He gestured to the photos on the wall, teens he'd mentored, kids he'd helped. "This place, Hope Haven, it's my way of giving back. But you too. You're my family. I never stopped wanting you." The twins sat in silence, the weight of his words sinking in. Ellie wanted to believe him, but doubt lingered. Why hadn't he found them sooner? Ethan stood abruptly. "I need air," he muttered, storming out. Ellie stayed, her eyes on James. "He's scared," she said. "We both are." James nodded. "I'm scared too. But I want to know you. If you'll let me." He reached into a drawer and pulled out a worn photo, a younger James holding two toddlers. one with Ellie's hazel eyes, the other with Ethan's freckles. This was the last time I saw you. Ellie's throat tightened. She traced the photo with her finger, her anger softening into something fragile. What happens now? She asked. James offered a small smile. We start small. Dinner tonight. My treat. Ellie nodded, but her mind raced. Could they trust him? Could they rebuild what Ruth had torn apart? That evening, James took them to a diner, its neon sign buzzing in the Chicago dusk. Ethan was quiet, picking at his fries, but Ellie asked questions about James's life, his work, his partner, Marcus, who ran Hope Haven with him. James spoke openly, his voice warm but cautious, like he was afraid of breaking something delicate. Marcus's family, he said. He'll want to meet you. Ethan snorted. Another stranger. James didn't push, but his eyes held a quiet plea. As they walked back to the shelter, Ellie noticed James's hand hover near Ethan's shoulder, wanting to comfort but not daring to touch. The gap between them felt like a canyon. Back at the shelter, Ellie lay awake, the photo of them as toddlers burning in her mind. She wanted to believe James, but Ruth's note haunted her. Don't look for him. What was Ruth so afraid of? And what else was she hiding? The next morning, Ellie woke to Ethan packing his bag. We can't stay, he said, his voice low but firm. He's not our dad. He's just some guy who feels guilty. Ellie grabbed his arm. You saw the photo. Ethan. He's telling the truth. Truth. Ethan snapped, pulling away. He let us grow up thinking he was dead. Now he's playing hero. I don't buy it. His eyes were red, betraying the tears he wouldn't let fall. Ellie knew his anger wasn't just at James, it was at Ruth. At the world. At the years they'd lost. They met James at Hope Haven, where he was setting up for a youth art class. The room buzzed with teens painting murals, their laughter a stark contrast to the twins' tension. James approached, cautious. I thought you might want to help out today, he said. No pressure. Ellie joined in, grabbing a brush, but Ethan lingered by the door, arms crossed. A girl with purple hair nudged him. You gonna stand there all day or paint something? Ethan scowled but picked up a brush, his strokes sharp and messy. Ellie watched, hoping the act of creating might soften him. James moved between the teens, offering pointers, his voice gentle but firm. Ellie saw how the kids looked at him, trusting, open. He wasn't just a mentor. He was their safe haven. She wondered if he could be that for them too. At lunch, James introduced them to Marcus, a tall man with a warm laugh and a knack for making Ethan relax. James talks about you two nonstop, Marcus said, passing Ethan a soda. Even before he knew you were here. Ethan's scowl softened, but he didn't reply. That afternoon, James took them to his apartment, a small but cozy space filled with books and photos. One frame caught Ellie's eye, James and Lila, young and smiling, with Ruth in the background, her face tight. She hated me even then, James said, noticing Ellie's gaze. Thought I'd corrupt Lila. When I came out, it was her excuse to erase me. Ellie's chest ached. Why didn't you fight harder? She asked, echoing Ethan's anger. James sighed. I was young, broke, and scared. I thought Ruth would protect you. I was wrong. His honesty disarmed her. But Ethan stayed silent, his walls unyielding. That night, Ellie found a box under James's couch, old letters, photos, and a journal. She opened it, Heart racing. The entries were from the year they were born, filled with James's love for them and his pain as Ruth pushed him away. One line stood out. "I'll find them someday. I have to." Ellie showed Ethan, but he shoved it away. Words don't fix 16 years. The next day, a social worker arrived at Hope Haven. Ruth had reported the twins as runaways, claiming they'd stolen from her. Ellie's blood boiled. "She's lying," she shouted. James stepped in, calm but firm. "They're with me. Their father." The social worker frowned, checking her notes. "You're not on their records." James's face hardened. "I will be." He hired a lawyer, a friend from Hope Haven, to fight for custody. The process would be long, he warned, but he wouldn't back down. Ellie felt a spark of hope, but Ethan's doubt lingered. What if we're just a project to him? He whispered later. Ellie didn't have an answer, but as they painted at Hope Haven, James watching with quiet pride, she felt something shift. Maybe he wasn't perfect, but he was trying. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough for now. The custody hearing loomed like a storm cloud. James's lawyer, Sarah, was sharp and determined, but Ruth's lies painted a grim picture. She claimed James was unstable, a danger to the twins. Ellie overheard Sarah tell James, "She's got no proof, but her story's convincing. We need more than your word." James dug into his past, gathering old letters and photos to prove his connection to the twins. He showed Ellie and Ethan a video from their first birthday, him singing to them, Lila laughing. Ethan watched, stone-faced, but Ellie saw his fingers twitch, like he wanted to reach for the screen. Life at James's apartment settled into a fragile rhythm. Ellie liked the routine school, Hope Haven, dinners with Marcus's bad jokes. Ethan resisted, skipping classes to wander Chicago's streets. One night, he didn't come back. Ellie panicked, but James stayed calm, tracking him to a skate park. "You can't keep running," James told him, voice steady. Ethan glared but followed him home. At Hope Haven, the twins met other kids with fractured families. A girl named Mia, who'd run from an abusive home, became Ellie's friend. "James saved me," Mia said, showing Ellie her sketchbook. "He'll save you too." Ellie wanted to believe her, but Ethan's doubts infected her. What if Ruth was right? What if James wasn't enough? The hearing arrived, a sterile courtroom that smelled of polish and fear. Ruth sat across from them, her face gaunt, eyes avoiding the twins. James testified, his voice breaking as he described losing them. "I never stopped loving them," he said. Ellie gripped Ethan's hand, feeling his pulse race. Ruth's lawyer twisted James's past, highlighting his youth, his coming out, his lack of contact. Ellie wanted to scream. When it was her turn, she stood, voice shaking. "Grandma lied to us. She said our dad was dead. He's not. He's here." Ethan stayed silent, but his eyes met James's, a flicker of something softening. The judge postponed the decision, ordering a home study. James's apartment passed, but Ruth's claims lingered. Back home, Ethan exploded. "Why should we trust you? You left us." James didn't flinch. "I didn't leave. I was pushed out. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." That night, Ellie found Ethan reading James's journal. "He wrote about us every year," Ethan said, voice low, "even when he thought we'd never meet." Ellie nodded, her throat tight. For the first time, she saw hope in her brother's eyes. James took them to a lakefront festival. A rare day of laughter. Marcus taught Ethan to juggle, and Ellie snapped photos. But as they walked home, a man approached James, his face twisted with anger. "You're that guy from the hearing," he spat. "Freak." James stood tall, shielding the twins. "Walk away," he said, voice calm but firm. The man left, but Ellie saw the hurt in James's eyes. Later, Marcus explained, "Some people hate what they don't understand. James has fought that his whole life." Ellie's heart ached. She saw her father not as a stranger, but as a man who'd faced rejection and still chose love. Ethan, quieter now, seemed to see it too. The home study report came back in James's favor. But Ruth wasn't done. She filed a new claim, accusing James of unfit influence due to his sexuality. Ellie overheard Sarah's frustration. She's playing dirty, using old prejudices. James stayed calm, but Ellie saw his hands tremble as he cooked dinner. Ethan, once distant, started opening up. He joined James at Hope Haven, teaching younger kids to skateboard. Ellie noticed him smile more, especially when James praised his tricks. "He's not so bad," Ethan admitted one night, staring at the ceiling. Ellie grinned. "Told you." But Ruth's shadow loomed. A letter arrived, addressed to the twins. Inside, her shaky handwriting begged them to return. "I made mistakes, but I love you. He'll hurt you." Ellie tore it up, but Ethan kept a peace, his face unreadable. "She's scared," he said. "Maybe she's right about something." Ellie dragged him to James. "Tell him about the letter." Ethan hesitated, then handed over the scrap. James read it, his jaw tight. "She's manipulating you. She did it to me too." He told them about Ruth's ultimatums, how she'd threatened to expose him, ruin his career, if he didn't stay away. "I was young and scared," he said. "I thought I was protecting you." Ethan's walls cracked. "Why didn't you tell us?" James sighed. "I didn't want you to hate her. She's your family too." Ellie saw the pain in his eyes, the weight of years spent silenced. She hugged him, her first real embrace. Ethan didn't join, but he didn't pull away either. At school, the twins faced whispers. Word of the custody battle had spread, and some kids taunted them about their gay dad. Ellie brushed it off, but Ethan got into a fight, earning a suspension. James didn't scold him. Instead, he took Ethan to the lake. Just the two of them. Ellie didn't know what they talked about, but Ethan came back quieter. His anger dulled. Marcus threw a small party at Hope Haven to celebrate the twins' first month with James. The kids from the center brought homemade gifts, drawings, bracelets. Mia gave Ellie a sketch of the three of them, James in the middle. "You're a family now," she said. Ellie's eyes stung. Was it true? The second hearing was brutal. Ruth took the stand, her voice frail but venomous. "He's not natural," she said, glaring at James. "He'll corrupt them." Ellie wanted to shout, but Sarah held her back. James's testimony was steady, recounting his work at Hope Haven, his love for the twins. The judge listened, her face unreadable. After, James took them to a quiet diner. "No matter what happens," he said, "you're my kids. I'm not giving up." Ethan, usually silent, spoke. "We're not giving up either." Ellie's heart swelled. For the first time, they felt like a unit, fragile but real. That night, Ellie found Ethan writing in James's journal. adding his own words. "What are you doing?" she asked. He shrugged, making sure he knows we're here. Ellie smiled, her hope growing. But Ruth's words echoed in her mind. What if the court sided with her? What if they lost James again? The judge's decision was due in a week, and the weight felt like drowning. Ellie threw herself into Hope Haven, helping with art classes, while Ethan stuck close to James, shadowing him like a wary puppy. They were building something, but the fear of losing it gnawed at them all. One evening, James took them to meet his old college friend, Lena, a therapist who'd known him when he was with Lila. "He never stopped talking about you," Lena told the twins over coffee. "Even when Ruth shut him out, he kept your baby's shoes in his drawer." Ellie's chest tightened. Ethan, usually guarded, asked, "Did he think we'd hate him?" Lena shook her head. "He was scared you'd feel abandoned. But he never stopped hoping." Her words hit Ethan hard. Later, he showed Ellie the journal page he'd written. "I'm sorry I doubted you, Dad." Ellie hugged him, tears falling. "He'll love it," she whispered. But trouble brewed. Ruth's lawyer dug up an old arrest James, age 20, at a protest for gay rights. It was minor, dismissed, but Ruth spun it as proof of instability. Sarah fought back, presenting character witnesses from Hope Haven. But the court's bias worried her. Some judges still hold old views. She warned James. Ellie overheard and confronted James. "Will they take us away because you're gay?" Her voice trembled. James knelt, meeting her eyes. "They might try. But I've got the truth on my side, you two." His certainty steadied her. But Ethan's silence spoke volumes. He was scared too. At Hope Haven, the twins organized a fundraiser to keep the center running. Ethan led a skate demo, while Ellie sold her sketches. The community showed up, kids, parents, even strangers moved by James's story. A local reporter covered it, calling James a hero for lost kids. Ellie clipped the article, hoping the judge would see it. The night before the decision, James cooked a big dinner spaghetti, his specialty. Marcus cracked jokes, but the air was heavy. "Whatever happens," James said, raising a glass, "you're my home." Ellie clinked her glass, and Ethan, after a pause, did too. It was their first toast as a family. The courtroom was packed on decision day. Ruth sat alone, her face drawn. The judge spoke, her voice measured. "The court recognizes James Carter as the biological father. However, stability is paramount." Ellie's heart sank. Was this it? But the judge continued. "Mr. Carter has shown dedication and love. Temporary custody is granted, pending a final review in 6 months." Ellie gasped, grabbing Ethan's hand. James hugged them both, tears streaming. Ruth stood, her eyes meeting Ellie's for a moment's regret. Maybe, or shame before she left. The twins didn't follow. Their future was here, with James. Back at the apartment, Ethan gave James the journal. "Read it," he said, voice soft. James opened it, his eyes widening at Ethan's words. He pulled Ethan into a hug, and Ellie joined, their laughter mingling with tears. They were a family, but the final review loomed. Could they hold on? Temporary custody felt like a fragile victory. James enrolled the twins in a better school, and they settled into his apartment, their belongings mixing with his Ellie's sketches on the fridge. Ethan's skateboard by the door. But the 6-month review hung over them, a reminder that nothing was certain. Ellie thrived, joining the art club and texting Mia daily. Ethan struggled, his anger flaring at small things: homework, crowded buses. James noticed, taking him to Hope Haven's gym to spar. "Let it out here," James said, tossing him boxing gloves. Ethan swung hard, his frustration spilling with each punch. Afterward, he talked about Ruth, the abandonment, the fear of losing James again. "You won't," James promised. Marcus became their anchor, teaching Ellie to cook and Ethan to fix bikes. One night, he shared his own story: kicked out at 17 for being gay, found by James years later. "He's got a knack for saving people," Marcus said, ruffling Ethan's hair. Ethan didn't pull away. A letter from Ruth arrived, forwarded by the shelter. She apologized, claiming illness, asking to see them. Ellie hesitated, but Ethan crumpled it. "She doesn't get to play victim," he said. James didn't push, but Ellie saw him slip the letter into a drawer. "She's still your family," he said softly. Ellie wondered if he still loved Ruth, despite everything. At school, a bully targeted Ethan, mocking James's sexuality. Ellie stepped in, her words sharp, but the principal blamed Ethan for escalating. James showed up, calm but fierce. "My son's not the problem," he told the principal. "Your school is." Ethan, usually stoic, hugged James after, mumbling, "Thanks, Dad." Hope Haven's fundraiser grew, drawing attention. A local church offered support, but some members protested, calling James's lifestyle sinful. Ellie overheard, her anger boiling. She wrote a blog post for the center's website, sharing their story: Ruth's lies, James's love. It went viral, bringing donations and allies. Ethan, inspired, made a video of Hope Haven's kids, their voices raw and hopeful. James watched it, tears in his eyes. "You're incredible," he told them. The review approached, and Sarah prepared a strong case: school records, community support, the twins' own words. Ellie wrote a letter to the judge, describing James's late-night talks, his patience, his love. Ethan added a page, short but honest: "He's my dad. Don't take him away." The night before the review, they sat on the apartment's fire escape, city lights below. James shared stories of Lila laugh, her stubbornness. "You're like her," he told Ellie. To Ethan, he said, "You've got her heart." The twins leaned against him, the city's hum wrapping them in a fragile peace. Ellie couldn't sleep, haunted by the what-ifs. What if the judge saw James the way Ruth did? What if they lost everything again? She crept to the living room, finding James awake, staring at their old photo. "I'm scared too," he admitted. "But we'll fight together." Ellie nodded, her resolve hardening. They weren't just fighting for custody, they were fighting for family. The final review was a battlefield of hope and fear. The courtroom felt smaller this time, the air thick with anticipation. Ellie clutched Ethan's hand, her eyes on James, who sat straight, his face calm but his fingers tapping nervously. Sarah had stacks of evidence: letters, videos, the twins' school progress. But Ruth's absence was the loudest statement. She'd withdrawn her claim, her health failing, her fight gone. The judge reviewed the case, her voice steady. "This court values family unity and stability," she began. Ellie's heart raced. She glanced at Ethan, who stared at the floor, his jaw tight. James reached back, squeezing their shoulders. "Whatever happens," he whispered, "we're together." The judge continued, praising James's dedication, the community's support, and the twins' progress. It's clear, Mr. Carter is a fit parent, she said. Permanent custody is granted. Ellie gasped, tears spilling. Ethan's shoulders shook as he hugged James. Their first unhesitant embrace. The room blurred, the weight of years lifting. Outside, the twins and James stood in the sunlight, Chicago's skyline gleaming. We're a family now, James said, voice thick. Ethan grinned, a rare, full smile. Yeah, Dad. Ellie laughed, the word dad feeling new and right. They moved forward, building a life. Ellie's art won a school award, and Ethan joined a skate team, James cheering at every event. Hope Haven grew, its doors opened to more kids. Marcus proposed to James, and the twins helped plan a small wedding, Ethan joking about being the best man. The ceremony was simple, in the park where they'd first reconnected. The sign, "Family is forever," in the background. Ellie kept Ruth's letter, though she never replied. She forgave her, in her own way, but chose James's love over Ruth's regret. Ethan wrote one last journal entry, "We found home." He showed it to James, who cried, pulling them close. Years later, Ellie and Ethan stood at Lila's grave, James beside them. They laid flowers, sharing stories of their mom, their dad, their new life. The pain of abandonment lingered, but it was softer now, overshadowed by love. They weren't just survivors, they were a family, forged through loss and rediscovery. The twins never forgot Ruth's note, its warning to avoid their father. But they'd found him, and in doing so, found themselves. James wasn't perfect, but he was theirs. And in a world that tried to tear them apart, that was enough.